record on this computer. Okay, let's start again, guys. This is the VCIX-nv demo session. Thanks to CCIEHOME to bring this to us. In this session, we will cover the basic aspects of the VCIX-nv certification track from VMware. I came across with this topology for you to test. This topology is even more harder than in real lab, I think. We have a couple of ESGs. Those are the square boxes here. Those ESG, and we have the distributed logical router from the side. And we have a demarcation point here that is telling us that this side is going to be handled by a service provider. We have two external routers. It could be physical or virtual, doesn't care. We don't take about of them. External 01, external 02. For this topology, I had made some infrastructure. As you can see, we have an SX management cluster running 3 controllers and 2 compute clusters with our ESG running multiple services like VPN, load balancers, firewall, and so on. We all have dual connectivity from each host to a top of rack switches, 2 per 10 gigs, and from there to the physical routers. Those are grays, those are legacy, that connect us to another data center. We will not cover the data center 2 side. This is good to know for you that in the real scenario that we have plenty of topic for you to understand. The logical infrastructure that we're going to run here is this one. We have OSPF against our service provider. We have an eBGP session here. This is the backbone area. In this ESG here at the bottom, we have a layer 2 VPN only ESG. This is going to run a layer 2 VPN against other side. In the other side, in DC2, we have an L2 VPN appliance from NSX. And here is the funny part. We have OSPF 10. We have static routings against our DLR. We have ISIS, ISO addressing here. So this is pretty much the same scenario that you are going to have in real lab. In real lab, of course, you will have another kind of routers, but the concept that we are going to cover here are mostly the same. What you need to focus here, we will focus on how to deploy the ESG, how to handle the static routing, dynamic routing, OSPF, eBGP, OSPF in multiple areas, summarization, ISIS, and layer 2 VPN. Also, we are going to take care of distributed logical router component of the NSX solution. So having this logical overview in mind, we are going to cover here 3 mock questions that we elaborate for our bootcamp. Let's start from the beginning. Okay. Mock question number 1. These are the requirements we have. You have been tasked with creating a new layer 2 network topology for test and development system. Multicast is not enabled in the underlying physical network. Okay, we need to take care about this. And these are the requirements that we have. We should not span more than cluster compute 01A. Connection should end in COM01 ESG. Okay, let's go back. Should end here, COM01 ESG. Data plane should be distributed in SAXI host kernel modules. Okay, we will talk about this. And they gave us the segments that we need to create, mock web tier, app, and DB, and the naming convention for a router, and the transport zone that we need to create. Okay, based on this question, the first that we need to do is go to NSX and see what is pre-configured there. So, you are still seeing my screen right now, right?
Yeah, we can see.
Perfect. This is NSX home. I will show you center first. Those are the tubes, this data center that we have created. In this one, we have a compute cluster management, compute cluster 1, 2, and the management that I talk about to you. And we're going to go to Network and Security tab. See, first thing of all, I tell to all my students, check the status of controllers, yeah? Turn role on NSX. You can't do anything without these guys. So we have 3 controllers in place, controller 3, 4, and 5, and both are connected and seeing each other, yes? Those are the peers. We will see host preparation tab. Awesome. Firewalls configure. VXLAN is not configuring cluster 2A. Okay, we can configure this, but it will not be in the scope of this question, but this will be definitely in the bootcamp. You need to know how to configure VXLAN to enable and troubleshoot an installation of NSX. And here's the point I want to see. Compute cluster 1A is configured. It's the VLAN addressing, MTU, perfect MTU. We need more than 106 because we are running a VXLAN encapsulation header, so we need this as minimum. We have 1 VM kernel for each of the ACXI hosts. Perfect. We need to see if we have VNI addressing for the VXLAN that we're going to use. VNI is the identifier that we're going to assign to each of our VXLAN. We have a segment ID pool, it's perfect. And finally, transport zones. We have a transport zone. The transport zone is where our VXLAN traffic is going to be spawned, and also where is the Nexus NSX distributed virtual switch going to spawn. So, based on the question, they say that traffic should not span more than cluster compute 01A. Perfect. And also we have another hint here that it says the multicast is not enabled on the underlying physical network. They put also a requirement for the naming. Transport zone is mock transport zone A. I will copy this. Since multicast is not supported, we have to run replication mode in unicast. Unicast replication mode, it's going to send unicast packet to the controllers in order to get the information about VXLAN MAC address reachability information. So we will use multicast if we have our network enabled for that. We will use hybrid with this unicast optimized, which will use multicast only in our data center, and when it has to reach an external VTAP, it will send the traffic via unicast, and then it will offload into multicast in the other side. But since we don't have multicast replication, we have to use unicast. We have to span only the compute cluster 1A. But also we need to expand this. We need this cluster to have reachability to the ESG. And to reach the ESG, we need also to reach the cluster in where those ESG are located. So I will check the management and edge cluster. And why is that? Because we need that our VXLAN that's going to be created on cluster 1A needs to reach our ESG in the management and edge cluster. If we don't select this cluster, our traffic will only be local to the campus cluster 1A, but ESG is not there. So the transport zone, perfect. And now we have to create logical switches. Let's see the convention for the naming. Mock web tier 01A, up tier 01, okay. These logical switches, perfect. See, here's multicast selected, but when I choose the correct transport zone, it will inherit the replication mode of the transport zone. vcix-nv. Perfect. And here are our 3 transport zones. We just go back to the question for a moment to see which is the requirement. We have created the new layer 2 network topology. That's for sure. Those are the logical switches that would span our newly created VXLAN to the compute cluster A and also for the ESG and management cluster. We will see that a BNI is going to be assigned to our newly created VXLANs. Also, we have here a tip. They say route naming convention use the prefix mark and suffix /ID. Why are they saying this? Because connection should end in COM01 ESG and data plane should be distributed in ACXI host kernel module. When they say this, basically they are stating for you to create a DLR. A DLR is the distributed logical router that runs the data plane in the kernel module of the ACXI host. Control plane, in the other hand, is handled by the NSX controller. So this tip is for you to be aware that you need to create a DLR and assign these interfaces. They don't say here to configure IP addressing. They should say create the DLR and assign this step segment. So we will go and create a new DLR. Of PCIX-01. It will be deployed, yeah. Put the password, enable SSH. We're going to create it in the management and edge cluster. This is the data store. Host and folder could be leave blank, that's no problem. Host could be leave blank because it is a DRS cluster, so it will choose the host automatically. No HA. See here, I have 2 types of interfaces, uplink and internal. We are not configured yet the uplink to the COM01 ESG. The uplink will be a link similar to this, like this one. I'm creating another DLR here, but I don't know anything about addressing that I have to put. But I know that I have 3 logical networks running here behind the newly created DLR. Oh, well. Will not configure any IP address.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, Ariel, okay, could you able to, because I could not able to follow you, could you able to explain the overall scenario of the lab?
Yes, you mean the whole scenario, the topology, right?
Yeah, that will be better to explain since you have like 30 minutes time frame. So go ahead with the overall what they are expecting and what we need to do rather than going with the configuration. That's what I believe in.
Okay, perfect. So the overall here, this question, here is the whole scenario that we have for like a mock 1. In this mock 1, they're saying option number 1, create 3 depth segments. There will be our logical switches. They will create a DLR. So we will end with 1 DLR like this one here. with a connection to the COM1, and this DLR will have 3 interfaces in the newly created logical switches. What are they expecting? In question number 2, we can see that now they want to have reachability from the perimeter gateway and from the DC2 to those newly created logical switches. So they give us here the addressing for our router, and they also give us the transit. The transit will be this link from the newly created DLR, and now we have this configuration for this link. We will use our static route here, and we will have our 3 interfaces with IP addresses here. So they are expecting at the end to reach from DC2 these newly created networks. What we will have to do? We will have to configure, let's assume this is the DLR, we will configure 3 interfaces with the different IP addressing. We will deploy static routes here, or we could run also a routing protocol, dynamic, but they say if you use static, use only one. So they are expecting us to summarize these networks, those 3, and put a static route here. And we are running here OSPF and variant 10. So we will redistribute our static routes into the OSPF. And at the end, we will be able to see from PGW or perimeter gateway 01 and 02 the routed Slender from COM01. This is the average idea they want for us to cover in question number 1 and question number 2. Here they say use minimum amount of static routes. That would be just do a summarization of these networks, if you can, of course. And also they gave us the IP for the transit. And they say, just a moment, they say COM01 should be able to use both paths to SP through perimeter gateways. What does this mean? We will have here an ESG that is running OSPF against these 2 buses. What they mean when they say use both paths is to run equal cost multipath in OSPF. So we will have an advertisement from this one and from PSGW01 and 02 with same cost. We can enable in COM01 router equal cost multipath on OSPF. So we will be able to run using both links. This is the overall that they are expecting from us in question number 1 and question number 2. And question number 3, we have put a router, it's called T-shoot-me. T-shoot-me router is going to be configured by an assistant for you in some cases, but it's unable to format adjacency in OSPF. So they are asking us for a support. Router should be able to see the network advertises, and router should advertise his static routes. So T-shoot-me ESG is this one. It has a static route to the T-shoot-me DLR's private networks here, and it's running OSPF directly in the backbone. What we will see is when we do a T-shoot under this ESG is that the OSPF is not formed. Basically, in OSPF, we will enter the T-shoot-me router CLI and see the state of the OSPF neighborship. Based on the state, what is probably the cause always in OSPF is check MTU settings. If you are in Xstart or Exchange state, the most probable cause of this error is the MTU bad set, and also check the interface mapping with the area. Those are the most common cases. Other common cases could be like the setup of the NSSA flag or not so stable or stub area flag, but that is not common in the scenarios of VCAX at least. Okay, I will follow with the solution for these first 2 questions. I think they are pretty straightforward. I will select the last logical switch without configure the addressing. Have the 3. Okay. I will not configure the full gateway now. Perfect. This is a logical router, but I need a DB virtual wire. Why is that? Because we need reachability on the management side. that's perfect. And this is something awesome that they added this version, is that if we click here, we can go back. So we will reduce this one. We will create a transit logical switch mock transit 01. Unicast, perfect. This will be for the transit to the ESG, become 01. We have here the HAPX-LAN, and we can see how they deploy one DLR here. That's why I leave the COM01 edge and DLR already configured. This will be the COM01 DLR that we will need to configure. I leave it already configured without any of the logical switches, just to show you how to do. Now I can add the interfaces. We add here DB. Oh, it's in another. Okay, it's back. I omit the transit. I will configure the addressing since I saw in question number 2 already. So they say the first IP in the subnet should be used for the newly created router. So I will use 172.16.01/25. They don't say anything about the IP address to use in the ESG, so we will run this one. And this is basically, you of course could configure the web app and DB addressing here. You will do it the question number 2 for sure. I will deploy this one just to start the ESG deployment, and I will go to the T-shoot of the OSPF area. This should be okay now. And I will go back here. And while this is being created, we will T-shoot. T-shoot is the most amazing part of this, you know. So they say that T-shoot me edge. Here the name is quite different. For me, in this scenario, this T-shoot me ESG is TS edge 01, but it's okay. PCW 01, 02 are running OSPF. We will check that, and we will see why T-shoot me is not running OSPF or why it's unable to format a adjacency. Have a few SSH sessions. I will run them again. Okay, Let's see if PCW01 is running. These are the routes we have. I'm currently placing on the a network that is reachable through this static route that is the gateway. So let's see if OSPF is running here. Okay, I'm seeing the 100.6. This is PCW02. It's in the full state and it's the BDR. And I'm seeing this router who is stuck in the exchange state. This is most likely to be our T-shoot-me router. First, let's see if PCW02 is the 106, which it is, but just for you to see it. Yes, and it says the tree, that is PCW01, has a full and has the DR40 segment, and also it could inform then the adjacency to the 100-202, which is our T-shoot-me router. Okay, so what are the most likely reasons to see this state? I will SSH to this just to confirm the state. Add password. Okay, couldn't form any relation. As you can see, the timer expired and starts again. So what's happening here? Extras or exchange state means that we are trying to exchange database descriptor information in OSPF, and we are unable to succeed in that. Most likely problems for this are always the same. It's MTU bad configure, a stab flag configure in the area, or bad area mapping information. So first of all, to run any routing protocol, we have to have our router ID properly configured, which is our same IP, and we have OSPF enabled, which this is okay, and we have a hint here. MTU is 1499. That's weird. OSPF running. Area to interface mapping, it's already done too. And it says is the uplink interface is running in area 0. If we go to our topology, we saw that this is our uplink and it's in area 0. So the bits of the area, the bits are okay. So we are signaling with the same area. We don't have any NSSA or a stub flag set in our area. The only issue that we're seeing is the MTU is not properly configured. We can check against one of the two edges that are running okay, PCW01 or 02, to see which MTU is configured under their interfaces. So this is a tricky one. You could see here the MTU under default gateway, but this is the MTU that they will use to reach default gateway. It's really weird, but you don't use that MTU setting. The one that you use is the one set in the interface. So we need to edit and see that MTU is this one, the standard one, of course, 1500. So go back to the T-shoot-me or TSH01 to change the MTU setting, restart the OSPF process, and just cross fingers that this will work. I will change this. Perfect. Awesome. As you can see now from the T-shoot-me router, we have format adjacency with the BDR designated router that is BGW01 and the BDR, which is BGW02. Now, if they are propagating some of their networks, we are going to be able to see them by doing a show IP route OSPF. In this case, they are not advertising anything. We can do just a quick test just to see this is working. I will create a dummy static route from one of the PGWs and will advertise it into OSPF. Sorry, static routes. Let's say that I'm able to reach the Google DNS, yes. To my uplink. And it's okay, and this is one. Okay, yes. Yeah, my uplink now is. Okay, first server. Next hub should be in the same network that the uplink interface. So uplink is 100, so of course the route is bad. So the new one. Let's try with secondary Google now. Just the first one failed, you know, but the issue was here. Here we go. 100 interface uplink. Now it should be okay since this network is advertised under this interface. Perfect. And now we have to redistribute under OSPF the static routes. So for redistribution table, the learner protocol will be OSPF, the one that we're running, and we'll redistribute static routes. Perfect. We are ready to go. We will just check. Let's say it's not still not advertised. Oh, here we go. And here we go. We are learning through OSPF, an external type 2 network. This will be useful for our classes when we talk about codes and selection and election of routes against each other. External type 2 has something with the codes that we will see in our class. And this is the 8844/32, like I said, the Google secondary DNS through our PGW01 router. So we have fixed this shoot-me router. Now it's able to form OSPF adjacency. We have created a newly DLR that will end up in the COM01 ESG. We have to do, of course, the redistribution of this and enable ECMP. I will just show you where is the ECMP option on the routing protocol. And I think that we are done for this one. This is the logical router. It's deployed just to show you that it ended the creation. And in COM01, this is the edge. When you go to OSPF routing, here you have ECMP. Of course, for enable this one, I have to edit enable router ID, so we are able to run a routing protocol. We have to enable ECMP. Like, since this one is running in area 10, I have to go to OSPF, enable OSPF configuration, create the area 10 like a normal area, not the stop flag there, and put the area to interface mapping. That will end the question number 2. That was the reason I go to the T-shoot me part. That is the funniest and is much more quick than the other. So guys, if you have any questions, just shoot them right now. I think that we are done for this demo session. Sorry to be so extensive, you know, it should be 30 minutes, but I really love teaching this one.
It was a nice session though.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Ariel. It was a wonderful session. It was very informative session, you know. I'm happy the session you did, you know.
Thank you so much, Shim. I hope not to overwhelm you guys, but this is the way it is. It's VCAX. Come on. You couldn't expect any less from this kind of bootcamps, you know.
Guys, anybody else has any queries regarding the VCIX-nv? And feel free to go about it.
Hello, Ariel. This is Venkatesh.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, Ariel. Actually, thanks for your session, and it was very good. But I want to understand, you didn't much speak about the controllers, the NX6 controllers, the cluster, and are we going to install any specific logical switches, or maybe the routers, or how are we going to build a network within EX cluster? Basically, what we're trying to build is a network. So is this going to be pre-built, or do we need to build it from scratch, or how it's going to be? How this journey starts, basically.
Okay, yes, for sure. Basically, in the real lab, you have two kinds of questions. One is just routing information. That is the one that we should face it, and it's configure and T-shoot. And you, of course, have the task to configure some parts of the cluster from scratch. In the bootcamp, we will cover the installation from zero, you know. We have to build this up. In this back session, just to be much more informative, I already created all of this. But what you have to do is just configure the cluster. Here is the hard part, you know. When you have this cluster, when you design, you have to deploy controllers here, troubleshoot that they are in running state, configure the compute cluster, configure VXLAN. For configure VXLAN, as you say, this is just a link, but these 2 per 10 gigs links are running just layer 2 VLANs. For over those layer 2 VLANs with MTU. Yeah. Yes, in real lab, we have to face this. We configure VXLAN from scratch. We assign VNIs, we assign VLAN, we choose the MTU to run this one. And this was already created for me to show you how to do the funniest parts of NSX, you know. But of course that we have to configure cluster from scratch, we have to configure VXLAN, we have to go to this really funny part of installation. When you do the host preparation will prepare your host, install the necessary VIPs with the firewalls modules, and we will configure VXLAN. See here, if I click here, it will be a lot of information. Which VDS to use, which VLAN encap, which IP pool, and which teaming policy. We will cover all of this in the real bootcamp for you to be prepared for the lab. Since it's in lab, this will be required for sure. Okay, so you need to be aware of that. You need to be ready to configure a cluster from scratch, and also to configure the logical network that we just did.
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Does this cover the security part also in this particular VCX?
Yeah.
Do we have some security storage or some other stuff like UCS onto it?
Yes, you have a security part. As you know, it's part of the blueprint of the VCAX-nv. In security part, what will you do? Basically, you have 2 different parts. One is the service part, when you will configure in the ESG and also in the DLR, the distributed firewall and firewall rules on the ESG. Those firewall rules will also use a standard layer 3-4 rules that you know based on port and IP, and also will use the service composer option of NSX. In Service Composer, you will define security groups, security tags, and you will assign dynamically to your VMs. In this bootcamp, I did not add any question of security, like Service Composer or just plain firewall rules, but it is in the blueprint of the exam and will be covered in the bootcamp for sure.
Thank you, Aaron.
So much.
Thank you, Ariel, for your nice demonstration. But guys, I would like to tell you one thing here regarding this exam. Because I've been to this exam, I passed this exam, VCIX. I'm also working in the NV. Okay, so what it is, like, you need to know the basic of VMware. You need to know the basic of the logical switching, how you need to deploy the logical switches. Okay, how you need to deal with the basic routing. Okay, how you need to deal with the basic firewall. Okay, and the tasks are more depend on this one only. And moreover, how to deal with the controllers in case of controller won't boot up, how you are going to troubleshoot the controller.
Yeah.
And some of the scripting will be there, little bit scripting will be there, like how you are going to test the servers and which server you are going to access. So this is all the exam. You are not going to do any command line, except like 5% of the exam may be the command line.
Yeah,
and 95% exam is GUI based, but you need to know where is what, and in case of troubleshoot, where to go and find it back.
Yeah, I already trained a guy who already passed this version of VCAX. I trained it a lot, you know, and he told me, okay, you teach me just a lot of questions, man. You teach me so much. I go to exam and I did the 10% that you train me, and I passed very well. I'm used to run. I also run NSX in my shop, and in my company we have a huge deployment of NSX, and we are used to run UI for sure, and also to do all with API. If you can see here, this DevOps Me DLR will do just configuration, not configuration, but just show some kind of performance stats with API REST. This should be DLR. You will need to use CLI to see a stat. But as you start in real exam, you will have, I think from CLI, you don't have to do anything. Only could be one question regarding how to join or how to rejoin a host that already failed. So you have to know how to see the control cluster status, which is the command is show control cluster status, by the way. But you need to understand how the cluster from the controller side, I mean, this one works. Because if you have a failure, you know, when we start the session, the first thing I saw to you guys was, okay, first thing to see is how is our management cluster? How are the health of our NSX controllers? So in real exam, I could not violate NDA, you know, because I didn't took this exam, I took the previous one, so I'm great. But I know that they check the status for this one and it's working. They use some Python script, not Python script, sorry. They use some REST API calls I have set up. I will show you. In our bootcamp, we have the REST API. Come on, perfect. We have the REST API ready to shoot. REST command get imposed to the NSX controller. NSX manager, sorry, we don't run against the controller, we run against the manager. So in real exam, you have to be aware of some configuration that only could be done from the API. One thing that came to my mind is configure syslog server. You can only do that by REST. You couldn't do that for the controllers with the UI, you know. The only way to do is through REST API. So we teach to you those kind of stuff that could appear, and they definitely will appear in the real exam because it's for the PCI status. And also we teach you how to troubleshoot, how to join a cluster, how to join a host, how to troubleshoot if something went bad when you do the in example, the load of the bit for the firewall module. That's something happening in real scenarios also. You have some bad firewall rule, and you could deploy the package to update the status and so on. So it's like you say, the exam is not 100% CLI. Actually, I think it has 1% CLI just to check the control of the status of the control cluster. And you have also a little bit of REST API to configure some kind of stuff like system servers. But that's all.
So Ariel, just a quick question. How many tasks we have and what's the time in the exam?
In the real exam, I think they are like 20, 25 questions. I don't remember the time frame that they assign you. I think it's like 4 hours.
See, the time frame depends upon upon your native language.
Yep.
I mean, it's for 3 hours if you're native English. Okay, but people from India, from Asia, I think they get additional 30 minutes more along with this lab.
Yes, you are right. I got it 3 hours, and my friend got 3.5 hours in India.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes, they are also asking about the prerequisite for this exam. Only via VCP-nv will be enough. VCP-nv6, of course. If you have that, you will qualify to take the VCAP-nv deploy exam, which is the standard for vcix-nv, because the design exam is not ready yet. So if you take the deploy, you will learn the status of vcix-nv.
The typical part, the most important part, if you deploy the controller, then you are done with the 30% of the exam.
Yes, that was in the previous version. It was for the VCAX of the last year, but they changed the curricula. Now they already gave you the NSX controller already deployed. In the previous version, where the task for the controllers was the first one, and it took a lot of time. When I say a lot of time, they also put in the question, be aware that this question could, I don't know, take 15 minutes. So the best scenario for the previous exam was deploy the controllers, cross finger that nothing went wrong, and if the controllers were okay, you had, as you say, 30% of the exam, and you could go ahead because all is dependent from the controllers. If you don't have controllers running, you're screwed.
Yep, you need to troubleshoot. You need to know how to troubleshoot the controllers. That is the main task all over the exam, and you need to make sure that your controllers are running. So because all exam is depend on the controllers.
Yes, for sure. Controllers are key, guys. You always have to go to the installation tab of NSX and see the controllers running with both peers okay. If you see that, believe me, you're happy with that.
Exam is pretty easy, guys. Since if you know the basics of VMware, go ahead for that. Don't think. That's what I can suggest you guys.
Okay, I'm asking exam codes. Exam codes. Shin, do you remember? Okay, I will do something. I will put here. I think they have VCAX6-nv. Okay. That will be the easiest way to answer you with this one. Okay, yes, I have a, I want it. I want to pass this exam. Here we go. $400, that's the pricing. This is the exam number. And you have passing score percent. You have, yes, you have 3 hours and 25 minutes. And there are 22 questions. Perfect. Yes, between 20 and 25. I was very accurate.
3 hours and 30 minutes is in USA and 4 hours in India.
Perfect. Yes. Yes. Also, I'm from Argentina, so I also got 4 hours. So I don't know, in this version, my student was on US, so his latency was really good, so he don't have any issue. But when I took the exam at my first time, I really faced a latency issue. In that case, if you feel that the UI is not responsive or something like that, just ask the people from Pearson. They can accommodate you a few more minutes. It happens in my case that my UI was actually pretty frozen. I asked them and they add me like 30 more minutes. After they add that, all start working fine. So I have an extra 30. But if you know, if you took the boot camp and you learn all the technology, you will face a really easy exam, because we don't offer only you the boot camp. We also offer you sessions to practice with our rack that we made. So that is the pretty awesome that CCIEHOME is offering the rack rentals for VCAX tracks.
Yeah, you are right about that one. Since in exam you need to log in to the VMware system.
Yeah.
So that's where you got some logs in some countries like India, and you know they don't have the proper internet connection. So you'll get some logs, but it should be fine. 4 hours is more than enough. You can complete the lab in 3 hours. That is a max time. You can go ahead with. In case of troubleshoot, it will take like 3 hours and 15-20 minutes for troubleshoot. That's it.
Yes, for sure. Also, I'm seeing here a question from Arsalan Khan. Do we have any similarity between MV and data center track from VMware? No, we don't. That's for sure. The only common part between them is that you use BDS on both, and that's the only common part between them. Because in this track, you will have some basic questions like create a BDS, assign a port to the BDS, take a snapshot, take a export of the configuration, and in NSX or MV track you have the same, but it's the only common point between them. DC track is much more different. You have another appliances, you have another technology to focus. So it's another bootcamp that you could take that we will do in a very few months. I think that we are going to start with that offering soon. If you are pursuing the DC track, you could also join us.
Yeah, seems to be there is a question came up from somebody regarding the VM and NSX platform, because NSX platform going to be more popular. You might read the news. The VMware going to discontinue from 6.5 support with the like Nexus 1000V, and also they are going to discontinue with HP virtual switches. Okay, now the VMware want to promote their own NSX platform.
Yes. Also, I don't know if you work in a partner or something like that. I was today at morning, I was in a meeting with the VMware NSX manager for Latin America. And he told me that he was running some kind of Delta Force. I don't know if you are aware of Delta Force. Delta Force is like a thing where all the partners of NSX just come together and start training. VMware trains those partners. And in Delta Force, all this session was based on NSX-T. NSX-T will be the multi-hypervisor version that they are focusing so much in avoid being engaged with third parties, and they are running plain NSX or NSX-T. So I see that this popularity of NSX will increase in time for sure.
Yeah, and also it integrates with the cloud, so you can go ahead with this one, and it will be more popular with the NSX. And if you have the AWS, it will be more worthy.
Okay, if anyone has any other question, just drop it.
Yeah, guys, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, or we can close the session. And please share your email address, so that we can send this video links to your email address as well. Okay, thanks all. Thanks for the great session, Ariel. And we will meet soon for further sessions.
Sure, guys. For sure that we will.
Yeah.
Have a nice week,
Have a
guys.
great day. Have a great evening, guys. Thanks for joining in.
Bye-bye.